Today we are still doing our study about It's a Wonderful Life If. And you know one thing about a wonderful life? It's a wonderful life because we have freedom. Amen. It's a wonderful life because we've had men, women, and young people that have been willing to go and serve our country. And so many have, and I do pray if you're able to go to the event in your local area to support those servicemen and women. But, you know, today I want to talk about endurance. Because endurance is something that we all need. We need in every aspect of our lives. But endurance is something that's often lacking. And we need it for godly living. If we're going to fight the good fight of faith, finish the course that God's laid out for us, then we have to learn to endure. We have to go through trials and difficulties because life isn't easy, is it? I mean, you're always facing some adversity. There's something out there to be a stumbling block. And that's why the Christian walk and the Christian life is a step-by-step, a day-by-day, moment-by-moment adventure. And you can't get ahead of yourself. You just have to be in the moment and understand that my responsibility is to take the next step. It's not tomorrow, it's today. It's right here and it's right now. Because trials and tribulations are part of life. And in fact, we're not to be surprised by these. And Peter said these words to us. He said, "Beloved, do not think it's strange." Don't think it's a strange thing concerning the fiery trial that's going on around you as though something strange is happening to you. That's normal. It's normal. It's normal to go through trials. It's normal to have difficulties. It's normal. They are unique. They are not unique to your life. They are not unique to my life. They are just unique, and that we have to go through them. And we have to endure those. So endure the difficulties that in life and understand that they're there for a reason. I want you to stand with me. We're going to read out of the book of Galatians. And whatever version you have, that word long-suffering, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, or it could also be patience. And in some translations, it's the word endurance. And then it talks about gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against these there is no law. Let us pray together. Father, I pray that you would give us wisdom today as we dissect this subject of endurance, long-suffering, patience. I pray, Father, that you would allow us to enjoy the fight that we'll be in throughout life and to recognize that it's not something unusual, that is just life. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Well, I want you to know my first point is probably going to be really odd to you. But I want you to get this point, and I want you to grasp this idea, and that's to embrace your adversity. Embrace your adversity. You say, wait a minute, I want to embrace love, I want to embrace peace, I want to embrace joy, but I don't want to embrace adversity. That's something that I just don't want to do. That's not in the wheelhouse that I really want to be involved in. But James tells us in his letter in chapter 1, verses 2 through 4, he said, count it all joy when you fall into various trials. So he said it's going to happen. So as it is happening, just count it joy, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. And you need to let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. And that word perfect means mature. So what happens when we go through trials and we endure them? Guess what you're doing? You're maturing. You're maturing. You're becoming more of what God wants you to be. And as we go through these difficult times of life, we need to understand they're there for a reason. Paul also mentioned this in Romans chapter 5. He said not only that, but we also glory in tribulations, knowing that the tribulations produce something. What? Perseverance, and perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. You see, when you go through life and you're maturing in life, those are the qualities that you're getting. You're gaining confidence, courage, and compassion. And as you gain confidence, that's confidence in your heart because you know who you are and you know whose you are. Courage enables us to live a selfless life and to be giving our life away to others. And then compassion becomes the hallmark of our life. And it changes those around us because we're compassionate, confident, courageous people. And it encourages others. And that's the thing we want to teach our children, isn't it? We want to teach them to be compassionate, confident, and we want them to have courage to face adversities and trials and difficulties. I mean, when our children are going through struggles, the last thing that we want to do is let them go through it. We want to protect them from it. We want to shield them. We want to embrace them and say, it's okay, I'll protect you. It's hard to see them fail. It's hard to see them fall. But the only way they're going to learn is to fall and fail and get back up again. It's been said, it's the person that endures falling 7 times but gets back up 8 that really endures. That's the person that has lasting power. That is the person who has the stuff that causes them to stay the course and to finish the battle of life. I think of Simone Biles. Simone Biles, the greatest Olympic gymnast of all times. She's won 20 gold medals in Olympics and in world championships. The last world championship she just won about 10 days ago, she came out of the hospital to go compete. She had a kidney stone. If you've had a kidney stone, that is a very painful thing. And she went, she competed, and she won gold at the World Games. Now that, my friend, is endurance. She was willing to say, it's more important to me. I have trained for this, and I will overcome. But I want you to hear the rest of the story, and maybe you know it, but Simone Biles, her life wasn't always golden. Her mom and dad were drug and alcohol addicts. She ended up in foster care. Her grandmother and grandfather came and brought her out of foster care and reared her as their own child. And they taught her the importance of enduring, never ever giving up. Yes, she had an excellent coach, and she trained for this spot in history relentlessly. She gave her all for that, and she embraced the adversity. And by the way, if you've ever known any gymnast, you know there's pain, there's suffering, there's injuries. It is a hard sport, but she continued to endure through all of that. You know, it's kind of like us. We had a bad start, didn't we? We're all sinners. We failed. We continued to struggle, but we have a great coach, the Lord Himself, that gets us through. And we have a great book of instructions to help us every single day to know how we should live our life. And we have indwelling within us the power of the Holy Spirit of God to take that next step, to encourage us to move forward and to never, ever give up. We have the opportunities with us and within us to complete the course that's been laid out for us. But so often, we fail. We have the very Son of God. We have the very Word of God. We have the very Spirit of God. And when troubles come our way, we need to embrace that adversity, and we need to have character. We need to have courage, and we need to have confidence that we will not only fight, but we will finish the course that's been laid out for us. So, embrace your adversity. Don't give up too soon. The second thing I want you to understand is this. You need to surround yourself with winners. Surround yourself with winners. Now, listen. You show me somebody that doesn't mind losing, and I'll show you a loser. You show me someone that only wants to win, and I'll show you a winner. They may not have the most talent. They may not have the most ability, but you know what? They have the most desire, and they're not willing to stop. Now, when I read the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, the Hall of Fame of Faith, we have all of these Old Testament men and women that are given there for examples to us. And they had trials. They had difficult times with the tribulations they were going through. Many of them lost their life for the faith. But the one thing they all did, they endured. They endured the course. They stayed with the stuff, and they did not stop. They persisted. And listen to me, their stories are there to encourage you and to encourage me to not stop, to not give up too soon. In fact, we come to the book of Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 1. And that's just after the last verse in chapter 11. And it says, therefore, we also, since we're surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, here's what we're to do. Lay aside every weight and sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Now, do you know what we're to do? We're to lay aside everything else that's encumbering us, everything that's holding us back, and take it off, put it to the side, and run with endurance. Now, if you're going to be a champion, that means you can't stop. Now, these witnesses it talks about in Hebrews chapter 12, we're surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. They are seeing and saying witnesses. And these are saying witnesses. They're saying to us through chapter 11, don't give up. Don't stop short. Continue the battle. You can do it. Run with endurance. Lay everything aside that you don't need and continue in the battle. They are encouraging us to not stop. They're inspiring us to keep moving forward. You go to a football game today or a basketball game or anything else, guess what? The crowd's encouraging the home team to keep moving, to keep going, to not give up, that they can win, that they can be victorious, not to stop, but to constantly move forward. Do you know if there's anyone that ever experienced adversity, it was the Apostle Paul. I mean, this guy had so much struggle in his life. In 2 Corinthians, we're told in chapter 11, verse 23, he said, are they ministers of Christ? I speak as a fool. I'm more. In labors, more abundant. In stripes above measure. In prisons, more frequently. In death. You know what he's saying? Here's my resume. I've been in more prisons than those guys. Well, that probably wouldn't get you a church position today. From the Jews, 5 times I received 40 stripes minus 1, 3 times beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I've been in the deep. In journeys often, perils of water, perils of robbers, perils of my own countrymen, perils of the Gentiles, perils in the city, perils in the wilderness, perils in the sea, perils among false brethren, in weariness and toil and sleeplessness often, in hunger and thirst and fastings often, in cold and nakedness. I mean, Paul said, I've gone through all of these things, and I did it for one reason alone. I wanted to endure, to advance the gospel to everyone that's breathing breath all over the world. And I would not stop, regardless of what I went through. And that is true stick-to-itiveness. That is true grit. That is not saying, well, a little bit of hardship came, a little bit of water fell in my life, I'm just going to give up. I can't do it. He knew that. And Paul encouraged young Timothy with these words, and they're encouragement to us, because Timothy was struggling, and Timothy was saying, I don't know if I can do it. And Paul said, you, Timothy, therefore must endure hardship as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. You must endure it. Continue moving forward. Never, ever stop. And you know what? I don't know what you're going through, but I'm going to tell you right now, don't stop. Don't stop. Keep going. Whatever's happened, it doesn't matter. Endure hardship as a good soldier. And you know what? There's a lot of soldiers, American soldiers, that have had to endure a lot of hardship. But you know what? They kept going because they saw the bigger picture. It was that person beside them, but even bigger than that, it was this entire country that we might have freedom that we do today. That's why the flag means so much to us. It represents freedom. It represents sacrifice. Endure hardship as a good soldier. Never, ever give up. Now, the third thing is, and I want you to hear this, get rid of what's holding you back. Get rid of what's holding you back. Now, when you think about this, you say, well, what is holding me back, John? Well, I don't know what's holding you back, but whatever it is, strip it off, lay it aside, get rid of it. Don't let it slow you down. Watch what it said again in Hebrews 12:1. Same that passage. Lay aside every weight. Whatever it is that's encumbering you, that's hindering you, that's not allowing you to compete as you should in the Christian life, lay it aside. Is it a habit? Is it a bad habit? Students, is it a bad habit about not studying until the very last minute? Lay it aside. Lay it aside. Listen, you're out there and you're working. You're working for someone else that's paying your salary. Are you giving them a full day's work? If not, you need to lay that aside and you need to give them your all. What is it? If you're a husband and you're not giving your wife what she needs, your time, your energy, your ears, you need to lay it aside and you need to give that to her. Ma'am, listen, why? If you're not doing that for your husband, you need to say, that is my priority and it's not about me. Whatever it is, whatever bad habit it is, maybe it's unbelief. I mean, you just haven't believed. You haven't given your heart completely to Christ. Listen, you need to lay it aside and say, Lord, I surrender all. Maybe it's no staying power. You're good at starting, but you're not good at finishing. I'm going to tell you, there's a ton of people in that category. They start so many things, but you can just look through their life, and scattered is debris of things they have started but never accomplished. Or maybe it's self-pity. Maybe it's self-pity. Poor, pitiful me. Why is everybody always picking on me? Self-pity. I mean, you just wallow in that. What do you need to do? What do you need to change to make you go from being a loser to a winner in the kingdom of God? What do you need to do? Lay aside and then fight the good fight of faith. Finish the course. Push through. Don't stop when you hit the wall. Keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. Because often self-pity grows in the heart like mold in a damp basement. And what you need to do is throw that off and say, I won't let that discourage or stop me. I will not quit. Whatever's holding you back, put it aside. Now, maybe you need to ask yourself these questions. Number one, am I truly helping my friend move forward? Am I truly helping my friend move forward? Or is my friend holding me back? Now, what I'm saying there is there's some relationships in your life you need to get rid of. Because that person isn't helping you. They are hurting you. They are holding you back. Now, are they causing me to stay stuck at the level that I am? Or even causing me to move backwards? You say, no, wait, Brother John, we should help them. I'm going to tell you something. If they're not helping themselves, you can't help them. You've got to cut them loose. You know, sometimes you got to either fish or cut bait. And sometimes you've got to cut bait. And that means getting rid of those relationships. Now, I want you to hear this clearly. The circle of friends that truly sustains you is very, very small. Did you hear that? Very small. So those people that come in that inner circle, they need to be positive. They need to be driven. They need to have dreams, and they roll up their sleeves, and they make those dreams a reality, because if they don't, you become like those you hang out with. You want to be a winner? Then you learn to hang out with winners. And if you don't surround yourself with people like that who lift you up and want to work with you as you lift them up, I'm going to tell you, get them out of your life. Fourth, don't quit. Endure to the end. Don't quit. Endure to the end. Endurance requires a choice, a strong sense of resolve. I will not quit. I will not quit. I will not give up. We have to have that passion. We have to make up our minds. This is the course that I'm on, and I will stay the course. We won't falter. We won't give up. We won't stop. Now, back to that Hebrews passage. I want you to see the words now. Let us. Let us. That is me. That's what I need to do. That occurs 13 times, that little phrase, let us, in the book of Hebrews. 13 times. Let us. And it speaks of this thing. Choices. Choices. You have a choice. What will you do when you come to the fork in the road? Will you take the easy path, or will you endure and take the difficult path? Will you say, Lord, I won't give up. I'm here to stay. I was reading a book lately by Angela Duckworth, and just listened to a little video this morning early, and she wrote this book called Gritty. How many of you have seen the movie True Grit? Yeah, almost everybody's seen either the old or new version or both versions. But I want you to hear what she said about that. To be gritty is to keep putting one foot in front of the other. To be gritty is to hold fast to an interesting and purposeful goal. To be gritty is to invest day after week after week after year in challenging practice. To be gritty is to fall down 7 times and to rise 8 times. And she used a lot of illustrations in her books about people, about different people that she she interviewed that had that stick-to-itiveness. And one was Will Smith. And I loved what Will Smith said. He said this: "The only thing that I see that is distinctly different about me is I'm not afraid to die on the treadmill. I will not be outworked, period. You might have more talent than me. You might be smarter than me. You might be all of those. You got me in 9 categories. But if we get on the treadmill together, there's 2 things. You're getting off first, or I'm going to die. It's really that simple." You know, that's the type of people we're to be. That's the type of people. I'm not giving up. What drives success? She went on to say in her book, it's not genius. It's not genius. It's not talent. It's not incredible ability. What drives that? It's a unique combination, she said, and I believe it's right. It's 2 words: passion and perseverance. It's passion and perseverance. You have to be passionate about what you're doing, and you have to persevere through the difficult times. Now, I used to love boxing. I don't watch it much anymore, but I used to, absolutely love it. That was the sport of the 70s, 60s, 70s, and early 80s. In fact, into the mid and later 80s. And I absolutely loved it. And 2 of the biggest names back in the late 70s, early 80s was Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard. Roberto Duran, and that's Duran with his head down, by the way, the sweat coming off him. That's Leonard that just punched him with a strong right. Well, you may not like violence. I apologize for that, but listen to the story. Now, this was their second super fight. They called it a super fight. This was the rematch. Duran had beat Leonard in the first match, and it was really close. Everyone said in the rematch said Leonard will be killed, that Duran will just obliterate him. Duran was a 5-time world champion. I mean, one of the best fighters ever. He had not been defeated in 41 straight bouts. He went on to win 101 bouts. But in this fight, in the 8th round, Roberto Duran turned to the referee and said, "No mas, no mas," which means no more, no more. He was barely behind on the scorecards, but he quit. He's 5-time world champion. But you mention the name in the fighting circles today, boxing circles today, and you say Roberto Duran. The one thing that's remembered about him is the 8th round of the Leonard fight in 1980 when he said, "No mas, no mas." He quit. He quit. He quit. I'm telling you something. Don't quit. Don't stop. Now, we've all had times we felt like quitting, didn't we? I mean, isn't there times you just wanted to say, "Here it is. I'm done, Lord." You feel like quitting. Maybe it's quitting your job, quitting the class you teach, even quitting on your marriage, quitting on church, quitting on God. And unfortunately, I want to bring this statistic up because this is the season for it. Unfortunately, 959,000 Americans attempt suicide. They attempt to quit on life every year. And the reason I brought that up is I want you to be sensitive to people this holiday season. Listen to them. Be there for them. Encourage them. And some of the greatest men and women in the Bible have wanted to quit on life as well and have their life taken. Now, Elijah was one. In 1 Kings 19, he had this high point when everything went well. But then he says these words. He prayed that he might die, and he said, "It is enough. Now, Lord, take my life. I've had enough. I can't go any further." But he didn't. He endured. Job said these words in chapter 3, verse 1. Job opened his mouth after he'd lost his family and his fortune. His wife had said, "Curse God and die," and he cursed the day of his birth. He was ready to cast it all in. Jeremiah said, the weeping prophet, "Oh, that my head were waters, my eyes a fountain of tears, that I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughters of my people." He was so depressed, he wanted to throw the towel in and say, "It's done." Yet these men overcame that temptation to quit on life and to quit on God. And they served him faithfully to the very end. So my advice to you is hang in there. And fifthly and lastly, stay focused on your goal. What is your goal? You know, I think everybody needs I'm going to steal a term that I heard a man use at the pastor's conference a number of years ago. Everyone needs a BHAG. You know what a BHAG is? It's a big, hairy, aggressive goal. Everybody needs one. You need a big, hairy, aggressive goal. You don't need to go through life just plodding along. You need to have a big, hairy, aggressive goal. Endurance takes anticipation. And let's just put these words up there again. And I want you to see it again. Therefore we also, since we're surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. By the way, when it says therefore, you know what you need to do? Find out why it's there for. It's usually there for what's before it. Let us lay aside every weight and sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking into Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him who endured such hostility from sinners against himself, lest you become weary and discouraged in your souls. And what he's saying here is stay focused on your goal. If you can stay focused on your goal, you won't quit too soon. Let me tell you about a man. This man ran a 542.7 mile super marathon. Now, that marathon, if you can see on the board, it goes from Melbourne, Australia, all the way up to Sydney. I mean, 540 plus miles. But in 1983, 150 world-class runners, athletes, converged on Melbourne, Australia, determined to win this super marathon. And then there was one racer who was a 63-year-old sheep herder, toothless man that decided to enter the race. His name was Cliff Young. And when he showed up, he had boots on, regular clothes, and no teeth. You know why he ran without his teeth? He said when he ran, they chattered. And he was also a potato farmer. He had chased his sheep. He had 2,000 acres, and he chased his sheep most of his life over that 2,000 acres. And he said he would run day and night for a couple days at a time. And he decided he was going to enter this. So there he was in overalls, work boots, and he enters the race. Now you can just imagine all these fit racers with sculpted bodies, and here's a 63-year-old potato farmer, sheep herder, and toothless man. They all kind of laughed at him. And when the gun went off to start the race, everybody took off, and Cliff Young started this shuffle, this odd shuffle. And he started running. There were anchors that came on the nightly news that said, someone needs to stop that old man. He's crazy. He's going to die. Well, the runners would run 18 hours and sleep 6 hours. But nobody told Cliff Young. He just started running, and he kept running, day and night, night and day, day and night, night and day, day and night, until he finished the race. 5 days, 15 hours, and 4 minutes later, he crossed the finish line, beating every runner by over 9 hours and 56 minutes. As you can imagine, he became a national hero. They asked him how he did it. And he said, well, I just kept thinking in my mind, I've got to herd these sheep because a thunderstorm's coming and I've got to protect them. And he kept running and running and running and running, and he didn't give up. Wow. You see, no one told him he couldn't. He just did. And I'm telling you, you can. Cliff had endurance. You and I need endurance. Paul spoke of this in Philippians 3:14. He said, I press toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. You need a big, hairy, aggressive goal. And if you don't have one, you need to get one. You know what mine is? To finish strong. Finish strong. Because there are so many temptations to stop. And if we'll keep our eyes fixed fastly upon Him, we will gaze at Him, we will have peace, love, joy, and endurance. Do you want a wonderful life? You can have it. You can have it, but you've got to endure. You must endure. Listen to me. If you've never given your life to Christ, you don't have a BHAG. Big, hairy, aggressive goals to please Him. Fight the good fight, finish the course. Every head bowed and every eye closed. Now listen, I don't know what you're struggling with, what you're fighting against, why you're about to give up, why you're about to throw the towel in, but I want you to know, don't. Stay the course. Finish strong. Never, ever, ever give up. Father in heaven, I pray that you would just take that word out of the book of Galatians, that we might endure, that we might be long-suffering, that we might be patient in trials, and that we would not only fight, but we would finish. And I pray it for every person here. And I pray, Father, that if there's someone here that doesn't know you as the Lord and Savior, today they would come to know you and they would be forgiven. And I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Stand and come as you have needs.